Welcome to the Developing Your Football World podcast. Today's guest is the brilliant Rob Porter, coach at Oxford United Girls RTC and Oxford in the Community, as well as being one of the excellent people behind Sunday Share. Enjoy. Good morning, Rob. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm doing really well, thank you. I'm very excited to talk to you.
At least someone is.
Well, I have to admire the choice of shirt. Thank you for putting that on. For those that can't see, Rob is wearing his Southampton Aztecs home shirt with complete pride. I'm so thankful that you're getting the word out there.
Definitely.
For those who can't see, who would be interested, I am wearing a Blackburn Rovers themed Hawaiian shirt, and it's very much reminiscent of Tommy Vercetti, for anyone who's played the GTA Vice City game.
Yeah, it brings back some memories back in the day.
Yeah, what teenager didn't enjoy committing all those wonderful crimes? It's actually how I learned about most of them.
Yeah. Grand Theft Auto back in the day was definitely my favourite. Used to love it. Then it went on to obviously Football Manager, and now I've just tried to give up computer games completely because I just, you'd be on there at like 9 o'clock at night, and then suddenly look around again, it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. It's like it's not good for you. So I try to sort of stay away from it if I possibly can.
I think that was a problem a lot of us faced during the initial lockdowns is, well, what else can we do? I don't know. I'll download the latest version of Football Manager, and then suddenly, you're right, we're up until 2, 3 in the morning.
One more game, just one more game. We can finish the season. We can win the cup. But yeah, I think I sort of stopped a couple of Football Managers ago because, as I said, it was just so time consuming. It was scary, to be honest with you. But absolutely lovely game at the same time. Yeah.
Apart from that, I haven't touched a game for years. Occasionally, when a group of people get together, there might be a bit of FIFA on, but I wish I had the time to play it. Unfortunately, I don't. And as coaches, we get to engage in the real thing, don't we?
This is it. And, it's great playing Football Manager, but when you can do the actual real life thing, it's even better, really, when you can actually speak to real life people and it's sort of a bit more tangible.
Yeah, I just wish that the players came with easy to understand statistics so I could know which ones to put on my team.
That's a good point.
So what were your first steps into coaching?
So I started off, it seemed like a very long time ago, with my eldest son. He was playing for a grassroots team, and the coach, there was a manager and a coach, and the coach was meant to be leaving because he was going to go and sort of work abroad. So the manager said, "Oh yeah, come in as his replacement." I was like, "Brilliant, happy to do that." The coach never left, which actually was probably the best thing that could have happened. The manager was extremely old school, shouting, line drills, running laps, all the rest of it, where the coach had done his youth modules. He was sort of very much player-centred. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but he was, all about the players, game-related practices and all that good stuff. So I got to see both ends of the spectrum. I got to see what, I would say, it's a bit of a thing to say bad coaching, but I suppose it really is bad coaching. And I got to see what really good coaching looks at from the start, which was absolutely fascinating. Coached my son's team all the way through till under 16s, and then just sort of carried on from there. It's just snowballed, to be honest with you.
I think we can be quite objective when it comes to bad coaching. I know there's different approaches, and we talk about coaches wearing many hats, and we talk about toolboxes, but there are certain methods and certain activities which are just completely inappropriate for that group. And I think sometimes in the Twitter sphere, we like to be welcoming, and so that every view is worth considering. And I think, well, we've had this discussion many times. This is actually a bad thing to do. You shouldn't have your 8-year-olds running laps. So do you feel then that having that introduction gave you a good foundation going forward, being able to observe and learn from someone who was quite forward thinking in that sense?
Yeah, massive. As I said, I got to see both ends of the spectrum. I got to see what actually really doesn't work. And in fairness, my son, before he joined that team, had played for another grassroots team locally, and the manager there, because obviously foundation phase, so they have a so-called league game, or so it's still meant to be a friendly, and then a friendly game after it. And he would have played like 10 minutes of the friendly game, and he would never play the league game. So I obviously got to see that in terms of, trying to manage minutes and sort of balance it out. So everybody, especially in the foundation phase, everybody's playing the same minutes. But yeah, going into my son's team, I got to see, what, like literally throwing the ball and having two kids run at the ball, and sort of, if you chicken out of the tackle, then you're going to get the manager having a go at you and stuff like that. To yeah, some of the stuff, especially the youth modules, were absolutely fantastic. And when I went on those, that was massively eye-opening experience in terms of creating the environment and the practice and stuff like that. So yeah, I think it was so beneficial at the start of my journey to see both ends of the spectrum. And although obviously the what not to do isn't great, it's to see that sort of, it solidifies in your mind what actually you do want to do.
These modules were fantastic. And I've said before that if I got into coaching maybe a couple of years earlier, before that mindset shift that occurred in England, I might be a very completely different coach and behind the times in a lot of ways. So I'm fortunate for the time that I got into it. Give us a brief outline of your coaching journey from the beginning to what you're doing currently.
Yeah, so as I said, I started off with my son's team, did that for a few years. Actually, kind of, I don't want to sound like I'm blowing my own trumpet, but I actually found out that I'm actually not too bad at it. I'm reasonably good at coaching. I can talk the high legs off a donkey, to be honest with you, half the time, which certainly helps. From there, started off with Oxford United in the community, doing some after-school clubs, which also then my sort of access into sort of paid coaching. Worked up from there through their what's it called, development centre system. Did some coaching there, and then about getting on towards 5 years ago, got the opportunity to move up to the Oxford United Girls Academy. Still doing that now, sort of moved through pretty much most of the age groups, done under 12s, 14s, 16s. And I still help out with my son's grassroots team as well. So I'm still sort of involved in all three phases. I still do a bit of grassroots coaching. I do a bit of development centre coaching and sort of some academy coaching. So, I see sort of all the different levels to a certain extent, which is quite fascinating, to be honest with you.
Do you feel like it benefits your coaching in working at these different levels? Do you feel like you can take ideas from one area of football to another?
Yeah, I think obviously you have to, with every session, at the end of the day, if you copy and paste a session, 99 times out of 100, it's not going to work perfectly for your group. So if you take an academy session and then do it with a grassroots team, you're going to have to modify it for, the players' ability and all the rest of it. But yeah, it's good to see the different levels and see how things work. And I think it's, so especially with the sort of the academy side of it, you've got to still remember, and I think it helps working grassroots football, that they are still kids and it's got to be enjoyable. And that's one of the main things for me is whether it's a 5-year-old, whether it's a 16-year-old or a 30-year-old man or woman, football should be enjoyable. If you're not enjoying football, what is the point? I suppose when you get to the top level, you're getting paid for it. It's a job to a certain extent, but everyone else, even then, it should be enjoyable. But no, if you're not enjoying it, then what really is the point of doing it?
100%. A lot of those documentaries give us an insight into professional players these days, and you see how some environments are a lot more enjoyable than others. Some it's like work; it's quite stressful. Whereas I've always been intrigued by the Brazilians and how it always just seems like play to them, even in the most serious games. It's still play. They're enjoying themselves, smiles on their faces, laughing, joking. I think maybe that's a cultural thing, because we've been in England always been about hard work and grind and being tough. And sometimes I think that persists and it permeates at all levels, where the fun comes from the result. And yet we all talk about life as a journey, not a destination. Only one team can win the league, only one team can win the game, but everybody can enjoy football. So what is it about football that is so enjoyable, and what kind of themes do you do you feel should be consistent in sessions, regardless of the level, age, or ability?
I think, as I said, the first thing for me is I want to see players playing with a smile on their face. I want to enjoy it. I say to them, at the end of the day, not every player is going to enjoy every session to the same extent. You know, if it's a defending session, then potentially some players aren't going to enjoy it, and vice versa, and all the rest of it. But I want to see players expressing themselves, enjoying themselves. Like training last night, we had a game at the end, and the centre backs picked up the ball in their own half, dribbled past 4 players, and just shot and just went narrowly over the bar. But stuff like that, players expressing themselves, went and sort of while she was running back, give her a quick fist bump, said that is absolutely fantastic. Love seeing players express themselves. At the end of the day, that for me is, I want, especially with training, to be release players to try to do things. And we conceded the goal last night from trying to play out. And I've said, look, that's not on you, that's on me. At the end of the day, the keeper could have blasted it high and wide and could have got the ball up the pitch, but I've asked you to play out and be brave. And if the goals come from that, that's down to me because I've asked you to do it. That's not down to you. So, stuff like that is, I really want players to be able to express themselves in an environment where they feel that they can, where there's no sort of limitations on them and they can try things, especially in training sessions.
That autonomy is so important to that with the self-determination theory. People play because it's fun, and that's how you get the best out of them. And it's a shame that some people lose sight of that. So you got into coaching, and you obviously enjoyed it. What was it about coaching you enjoyed that made you want to keep doing it and do it more?
Probably the people. To be honest with you, I'm quite a people person. And being able to, it's the players, but it's also the coaches as well. If you can get into a good environment with good coaches, that's massive, because some of the best learning you can get is from your fellow coaches. Some of the conversations I've had in the car park at 9, 10 o'clock at night after sessions, there's been some absolute gold dust in those, some stuff that, you don't even get on some courses. But also the players, getting to see players improve, getting to see them become more confident people and sort of really start to express themselves, that for me is absolutely fantastic. That's what I'm here for. If that can end up in results and we can win games, brilliant. But for me, that's like a secondary thing. I know that's very cliche as well, but it's development first. I would quite happily go the whole season without winning the game if the players at the end are better for it. Then win every game playing, lump it long football. And we've seen opponents, especially where the girls play in boys grassroots leagues. Some play brilliant football, try to keep the ball on the ground, but we've also seen some teams where, especially in 9v9, they've got a goalkeeper with a big kick, they've got a big lad up front, and basically the defenders and midfielders only touch the ball if they win it, because it's just going route one into the other. So you can win more games not developing, but you can win less games and develop. So for me, that's why development's the most important thing.
So let me play devil's advocate here, because I've had this discussion a lot, particularly with parents in the United States. And there was one team meeting we were having, and we were trying to assure the parents that if you come to our club, come to our team, you're going to get the best coaching around, you're going to get fantastic development process. And one mum who was fully on board with it, very intelligent woman, she said, everything you do is great, and I completely believe in it. But why would I, or why should my child go to your club where she's going to learn passing, moving, skills, game intelligence, and then go play college soccer where they won't use any of that stuff? So in an English sense, I suppose we can phrase it like this. Kids enjoy winning and remember scoring goals, winning games, and getting trophies. So why not focus on that kind of stuff? Why not, when they're 20, 30, 40 years old and they've got their plastic trophies to hold and to look back on, like my wonderful plastic trophies behind me, The bigger one is a pre-season trophy with just 4 teams, and we came second. So those trophies, they might mean something to people. So why not go all out and put the fat kid in goal and just lump it forward to the fast kid up front?
I suppose it's the environment I'm working in. Is we're trying to develop players who are hopefully going to become first team players. So you're developing players for a system from that side of it. That's in terms of the academy. In terms of development centre, obviously that is still very much in terms of creating footballers, especially where they come in from different teams. So it's about trying to develop the individual. It's something I find quite hard when you get topics about playing out from the back or stuff like that, and you're thinking, well, I've got 14 players, of which 7 or 8 might play different formations. So how can you really? It's difficult working on playing out when someone might play a 3-5-2 and some play 4-4-2. But yeah, it's an interesting topic because, as I said, you could win more games, and I suppose, but I think memories don't just come from winning. I think if the players enjoyed their experience through grassroots from 8 till 16, they've won less games. I think they'll have better memories than if they've gone 8 to 16 and they've lumped the ball up, they've barely touched the ball. Yes, they've won some trophies, they didn't enjoy it as much. And I think enjoyment in terms of memories is still quite a massive thing. That'd be a fascinating topic to get a poll on and see what people's thoughts on that one are, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it'd just be interesting to know how to phrase that in the character limit of Twitter. So if I paint a scenario for you then, to really nail this one, imagine you've got an under-12 player in front of you and you've been working on playing out from the back. It's coming from the club curriculum, so it's coming from up high, and they're saying, we're going to play through the thirds, we're going to build attacks from the back because we're going to all the developmentally appropriate reasons of long-term player development. And you've been doing it for a few weeks, and the team is getting a bit better at it, but they keep making mistakes, and they've lost a few games. And one of the kids, probably a defender, says to you, Coach, I don't want to do this because we keep conceding goals, and I want to win games. So can we not just lump it forward instead? How do you convince that kid that the long-term player development is actually more beneficial than the short-term result?
That's a very, very good question. I think it's just trying to sort of show them the bigger picture. Is look, yes, we will make mistakes, and I think it's also that thing of taking the blame off the players and say, look, if you're making mistakes playing out from the back, we've asked you to do that. That's us. That's asked you to do that. So don't worry about the mistakes. That comes from the coaches. Yeah, I think it is quite difficult. You do have to get to the point of questioning if the players and the parents, if that's what they see and that's what they want, then maybe would be better off in a different environment. But it's not so I've really come across, to be honest with you. I think a lot of the time, especially with the players, the groups I've worked at, they've sort of bought into the ideal of what we're trying to do. And if you take the mistakes off them and you say, right, this isn't really your mistake, this is ours, I think then the pressure comes off them a little bit as well.
We just said take the mistakes off them. I like that a lot. That's very good.
Yeah, as I said, that was what we literally spoke about last night. The ball came back to the goalkeeper. The goalkeeper could have just lumped it, decided not to, tried to play the ball, got intercepted, and the player went through and scored. In the day, it happens. It's training, especially. I want players to try those things. In the day, if they continue to do that, and you've got a coach who's berating them because they're making those mistakes, then they're less likely to do it, and their confidence is going down. So if they are trying to do it, they're probably less likely to succeed. So, just free them up to do it, and make them feel confident that you've got their backs, that they can do it. And if they make mistakes, it's not their fault, it's ours.
9 times out of 10, I would reckon that the kid who would say something like that anyway is usually one with the parent who is most animated on the sidelines, and it's often being reinforced from home. And usually there's a bit of pressure. The kid's going home. It's the dad. Most times it's the dad, not the mum. There are some mums, but mostly it's a dad in the car. You need to win. You need to do that. I've had it with a couple of players where I say, you need to do this. Have a look. Someone like Manuel Neuer does it, and the kid will say, "Yeah, but Manuel Neuer is good." but, but you can become good if you.
Yeah, how did he get good? How did he get good?
Just born that way, wasn't it? That's unfortunately, it's a fixed mindset that we encounter, and I find it with a few coaches as well. Let's talk about your ambitions as a coach. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? What do you want to be? What do you want to experience?
To be honest with you, I've kind of got to the point where I've stopped really. Not that I'm not ambitious. I am ambitious, but I'm not setting myself. I've stopped setting myself like individual thing. I want to do this. I want to do that because I put so much pressure on myself to succeed in those things. For me personally, my mindset is if I continue to work hard, improve myself, opportunities will open up. Or if they don't, then and if I see an opportunity potentially, I'll go for it. But I try not to put sort of too much pressure on myself in terms of I want to be doing this, I want to get this license next, I want to be moving up to that age group. At the end of the day, if you work hard and you're putting the hours in, you're becoming a better coach, then potentially those opportunities will open up anyway without having to. And that's me. Different people obviously different, and if you don't stress about things like that, then it's brilliant to have those goals. But for me personally, I found they were weighing me down to a certain extent, and I find that actually, my main goal is just to become a better coach every day, and then hopefully improve the players that I work with. And from what will come from that is what will come. What will be will be.
Let's look at short term then. After one of your sessions, I sneak out in the car park. Here, kids, what's Rob like as a coach? Now, after not talking to strangers, obviously, what kind of things would you like them to say about you as a coach?
Well, at the start of the season, me and another coach, we sort of worked together off and on for a few years, and we were back together this season. One of the players I think it was like we had a little sort of session in the summer, just get to know new coaches, new players. He said, "Oh, I'm so happy we got the two fun coaches this season." So that kind of thing, to a certain extent, it's got to be balanced out, especially in that environment. It's got to be balanced out with the fact that it's a high level environment. The players got to work hard, and obviously that comes into it as well. Is we can have fun, or do want to have fun, but obviously it's got to be balanced with working hard, meeting the goals that we're setting ourselves, all the rest of it. But I want my players to go away and think, or if they're talking to someone in the car park, he's a coach who we enjoy his sessions. Hopefully, as well, I say we're a coach that improves us as well would be good. And I think as well, a coach who actually cares about us rather than just them as players. I think that's massive. I've worked with this group previously, so I know a lot of the players quite well. But the new players have been sort of asking them, tell us a bit about yourself. What do you do outside of football? Then getting to know obviously what teams they support. We can have a little bit of banter about that as well. When they find I'm a Leeds fan, sort of most of the banter goes the other way, unfortunately. But I take that, to be honest with you. But I think those are sort of the main things for me, that hopefully they enjoy my sessions, that they improve, and that they actually know that they've got a coach who cares about them, to be honest with you. That's very cliche, isn't
it? It's right, and I like that you're a Leeds fan, not because it's you or because it's Leeds. It's more because there's not enough kids these days that I think support real teams. I had a kid on camp the other week who wore a full Grimsby kit.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it was excellent. There are a few that had shirts from being on. I think one kid was wearing Rennes from France. I have to make a point to Grimsby kids' mum. This is excellent. I wish I were all kids like this, because to support a team like that requires pain, and it teaches you a lot more about life. You can just go to Sports Direct and buy the latest City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal shirt, and these people, they talk about, it's tough being a Man United fan. No, it's not. No, it's not. You fill your stadium every week. You sell shirts all around the world. You've got billions to buy star players. You're constantly in Champions League, Europa League. All your games are on television. Stop whining. You're having a bad few years. All right, come down the leagues a little bit and try and turn up to a terrible stadium where even though there's a roof, you still get rained on. And
Yeah.
you can't even find your own shirts in your own club shop. So
Yeah, I think we've got a few Oxford fans, and I think the challenge, obviously, working with girls to start with was I'd naturally go towards, someone's a Chelsea fan. Oh, who's your favourite Chelsea player? Is it, Mount and actually the fact that actually it could be someone like Kerr or Kirby, and actually sort of relate on the female side of the game as well. So that took me a little while to get into, but now obviously, some of them, a lot of them still support the men's sides as well, but actually trying to get that engagement about, who do you enjoy as an Oxford fan, who's your favourite player, as a Chelsea fan, who's your favourite player. And I think obviously what's happened to Euros in the summer is massively helped. The buzz around training, the session after the win of the Euros was ridiculous. It was absolutely fantastic. So hopefully that's just going to sort of kick things up another gear in terms of the women's game with a bit of luck.
Let's go down that route for a minute. At the moment, there's a lot of positivity. It's brilliant. It's going to be one of the best days of my life, no matter what happens from now on. It will always be up there. But how do we make it last? How do we revolutionize? How do we change things? What do we need to do in the short term and the long term so that this isn't just a one-off and girls don't buy the England kit this summer and then stop playing football next summer? How do we run with this?
Yeah, that is a very good point. Obviously, the FA, sort of along with the Premier League, is there is that sort of change to the structure in terms of if it's the EDCs that are coming in. So that will hopefully up the amount of participation. Obviously, that game that's coming up with England and the US, that should sort of hopefully keep it sort of going, and that'd be a really fantastic game to watch as well. The US with the way they've been with the sort of the pace and the power, and sort of, I see it was Todd Bean who was saying about how sort of they're being bypassed by a lot of the European teams now, where the technical level is a lot better. So that game should be fantastic. Yeah, I think it's about keeping the ball rolling, keeping the momentum. So the FA have got obviously a lot to do with that, and hopefully they can really keep it going. And as us as coaches, we just got to obviously keep on spreading the message. And I'm very positive about the women's game on social media. It does wind me up a little bit when you get the comments about, get back in the kitchen and get the ironing board out and stuff like that. And and the amount of people sort of a little while ago when they were saying Barcelona had like 90,000, there's people say, oh yeah, but it's only because they're giving away free tickets and no one really cares. And it's like, that sort of stuff does wind me up a little bit.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate how many insecure men still like to make their very tired sandwich jokes. All right, move on, guys. Come on. I've gone down that rabbit hole a few times myself.
Why? Yeah, I try to stop myself.
Yeah, and you won't get through to these people, unfortunately. And maybe we're better off just ignoring them, because think of how well women's football's done recently without their support. Actually, we don't need it, and we shouldn't try and change their mind, because it's not like they've come to a fair and balanced opinion, is it? They're just wankers from the get-go.
I think the thing for me is, like, and obviously just using Oxford United as a sort of example, is the fact that it's £40 for a season ticket, and if you're a men's season ticket holder, it's £20 for a whole season of football. And they play at a good stadium, play at Oxford City Stadium, so it's a good stadium. They have the most ridiculous gourmet burgers and stuff like that there, so the food's good. You can grab a pint from the bar and stand by the pitch and watch the football. And obviously the quality is good. I mean, if more people, and hopefully more people will now know about that and think, well, actually, that's a good Sunday afternoon out. I'm supporting the men's team. Why not support the women's team as well? So if that can go and the momentum can still build, which I know with the women's team, they've doubled the amount of season tickets this season from last season. So hopefully it'll just continue to grow and grow with a bit of luck.
I went probably 6-7 years ago when Oxford played London Bees. I didn't know about the burgers though, so I'm going to have to go back now.
That might have changed since then, though, in fairness. I think the other thing that I'd love to see more of is the same. The way the cricket's going at the moment with the 100, where you've got the women's game followed by the men's game, so on the same stadium, same day, back to back. Would love to see that more with why not have Man United women play just before Man United men? Maybe in middle of December you wouldn't potentially want to do that because it's going to cut the pitch up too much. But why not 2 or 3 times a season do that? Have them back-to-back fixtures. How many more people are going to go and watch the games if things like that are happening?
To be fair to the National Futsal Series and to BT Sport, they've done that very well with the futsal. They get the same platform, the same treatment. The men's league, the teams there are much more established and developed, much further down the line than the women's teams are. But it won't grow without that support. And I think out of all the men's and women's teams out top division, we're the only one where the women's team is considerably better than the men's team relative to league position. But you're right, you can join up a lot of this and get momentum, get a lot of the same fans, because people want to go with their friends, enjoy the game. They want to see football. They want to support their team. So it's more opportunity to wear your colours. It's more opportunity to get behind your team. And look, if you're a fan of the men's team and they lose, well, Sunday afternoon, your women's team, they might win. It could pick you up. You never know. And if you support someone decent like Chelsea, you're probably going to win both Saturday and Sunday, aren't you?
Very good point. Yeah, and they do play some really good football. The Chelsea women's team, really good.
I think with the Euros, you saw a lot more tactical diversity than what a lot of the Americans are used to, because for many of them, a lot of them will play NWSL, and it would be a very similar experience. Whereas in Europe, because there's lots of smaller countries in a very small space, despite having decent sized populations, is you do get a lot of the cultural trends face off against each other, whereas the Americans don't. And what we found in youth football over there was that a lot of the kids were solving the same problem every week. And so when you came up against a team that did play a different way, they didn't know how to solve it. They were completely blindsided by it. Whereas in Europe, just even in your own local Sunday league team, you can play against probably, in my opinion, far greater tactical variance than what top American teams will play against. And so going back to that game, USA versus England friendly at Wembley, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I think this might be the changing, the big change. Maybe it's our time, or at least another European team's time to dominate. And I see a lot of American friends and colleagues who are the ones that pay attention and keep their finger on the pulse. They're quite worried about the state of the American game going forward, because we've finally woken up and taken it seriously over here. And fingers crossed we do well. I mean, we all went to that game at Wembley saying this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I'm looking around thinking it doesn't have to be there, does it?
No.
This could be a frequent occurrence now. It could be in 20 years' time, bloody England women in another final again. Boring. Because we have that opportunity to...
Yeah, it will be fascinating. And the same as you, I see a lot of people sort of stateside saying, well, actually, yes, the US were miles ahead in terms of women's football, but actually now they're being sort of passed. So yeah, that game especially will be really fascinating to watch, and sort of from a tactical perspective and seeing what happens there. In fairness,
yeah,
we did last season. I helped out with Oxford United with the under-23s, and had a women's college team come over and play the game because they were on a tour. The amount of running they did was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, in the first half, some of them must have done 10K plus. So from that side of it, it's quite amazing to watch, to be honest with you, because they are real athletes. But obviously the football side of it wasn't quite as good to watch as the athletic side of it.
One of the most stark contrasting experiences I've witnessed was, I can't remember the name of it. It was some cup they hosted a few years ago, a big youth cup, in the US where they invited loads of club teams from Europe, and it was I think it might have been a semi-final or quarter-final, and it happened to be the best American girls team under 14s played against Barcelona.
I watched that. I watched the highlights of that of it.
The one where the American team had the kickoff and they just booted it out for a goal kick so they can go and press. And then they didn't realise that Barcelona could play out, and you just see them completely lost, going,
Yeah.
what are they doing? How are they keeping the ball? Is this soccer? That, I think, demonstrates it's very eye-opening to a lot of people. And I want to see America fail, obviously, because of an England fan, but it would be bad for the game if they do. So I hope they wake up and start to enact some real change, because sometimes the success can reinforce complacency.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's come back to you, because I enjoyed that one of several tangents I'm sure we're going to go on. If we now look long term, because I've asked about sneaking up on your players in the car park, asking about you and your sessions. Let's think in many, many decades' time, when you've lived a long, healthy, successful life, what do you want your obituary to say about you as a coach?
That he enjoyed himself.
At the expense of everyone else?
The what?
At the expense of everyone else?
No. I like to bring people along with me, hopefully. But no, I think that that the players enjoyed being coached by him. Other coaches found he wasn't that much of a dickhead, and that he enjoyed. They enjoyed his football. He had a smile on his face. I'm still like a kid in a sweet shop, to be honest with you, when I turn up to a lot of training sessions. I never want that to go away, to be honest with you. I don't want to turn up and I'm bloody miserable, because I don't really want to be here. To be honest with you, it's the best job in the world, because I do it and not get paid for it, and I do it and get paid for it. And to be honest with you, it doesn't really make any difference to me. The money's just a bonus, to be honest with you. So, this, for me, I said I'm just someone who enjoys the football, and hopefully I can bring that out in people, and I can make other people smile, and other people have enjoyed the experience with a bit of luck.
In what ways are you like a kid in a sweet shop? Is it things like new kit day?
That is, but just every session I turn up and I'm it's part of my day that I really enjoy. The day job absolutely kills me. I don't enjoy it, like most people don't. But this is something that actually I have a bit of anticipation for, and I enjoy it, and still get the odd butterflies, because also I want to make sure I'm doing a good job, and I want the sessions to be good and the players to get the outcomes out of it and improve themselves. But yeah, it's the end of the day, it's something I enjoy, and then the fact that I get paid to do it is quite ridiculous, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think we all think that at times, don't we? Sometimes, how are we getting away with this? How is this real? How am I getting paid to wear shorts and kick balls around kids?
Yeah, it's the best job in the world, to be honest with you. I would love to do it full time, but I've kind of come to a realization that a lot of full time coaching isn't quite well paid enough, and especially in sort of the economic state the country is at the moment, just not really worth it, unfortunately, which is a shame, but it is what it is.
Yeah, looking at loads of jobs every day, you see that unless you're working at the top, it's just financially not worth it. And I get a lot of emails and messages from coaches who are kind of between 28 and 35, and they're saying, I've got this license, I've got this experience, but I can't get into full-time football. What should I do? I want to buy a house or have a kid. Should I give up my coaching dreams and just do it part-time? Should I get a real job? Should I move abroad? And it's tough when you see particularly clubs with money, the compensation isn't there relative to the qualifications you have to get, relative to the experience that you have to get in order to be good enough to do that job. Coaches are just not compensated fairly. And I think because there's so many talented coaches and so few positions, the clubs can underpay. There was academy goalkeeping job going a while ago. I think it was something like £10 an hour for a B license. This is not right. How are you doing this? Well, because if you don't take it, this idiot will. So we're going to shortchange you.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, unfortunately. So I would love to do, but I'd have to take a massive pay cut to do it. And although I love coaching, I also enjoy family holidays, also enjoy having a reasonably nice car. I enjoy, life's luxuries like going out for meals and stuff like that. So unfortunately, it was a decision to do sort of one or the other. And, I think it's a young man's game. Like there's a coach I know who early 20s, lives at home, all the rest of it, so he can afford to be on a reasonable amount less. But when you've got a house, a car, kids, a missus, all the rest of it, unfortunately, it's not really feasible a lot of the time, which is a shame.
That's a sad state of affairs. But let's come back to things that are a little bit happier. Where do you look for your inspiration as a coach, or your development, your learning opportunities?
I said a lot of it comes from the coach I work with. Some of the best experience I've had have been having those chats with coaches, like especially away trips. Having chats on the coach and having chat with different coaches about this and that, tactical stuff, player development. Obviously, social media is a massive one as well. Some of the people share some absolutely great resources, and that's fascinating as well. I've been going back through the England's webinars that they did sort of during lockdown because they're still on YouTube. They were a good resource. So I'm not really much of a reader, though, to be honest. So I have to hold my hands up. When it comes to reading books, I do struggle, to be honest. I haven't really got the attention span. But yeah, there's lots of good ways of getting resources. But as I said, a lot of it is if you work in a good environment with good coaches, can possibly be the best resource you can have, to be honest with you.
On reading, and this might sound like a cheat, I found that think of a fantastic book like Legacy. It would take you hours to read or hours to listen to it on audiobook. But after 6 months, someone will summarize the key points on Twitter.
Good point.
That's happened a lot. Someone's going to make a presentation, or someone will come onto a podcast and just rehash those same points again. And credit should go to the author, absolutely. But somehow you can almost learn vicariously through others in that sense. So,
yeah, I've found the Bielsa books were the last sort of ones. There was a couple of Bielsa books I read because as a Leeds fan, it absolutely fascinated me. I learned a lot from those. But yeah, it's just I do find it's quite difficult to sit down, and I'm someone who tries to be on the move quite often. So sitting down for an hour reading a book I do find that quite hard.
You mentioned Bielsa then. As a Leeds fan, when you watch those documentaries, I'm guessing you did, I forgot what it's called. Russell Crowe narrated them. The ones on Leeds.
Oh yeah, is it Take Me Home? That's fascinating.
Did you watch that as a fan or as a coach, or as a bit of both?
To be honest with you, one thing when I did my UEFA B, they were like, "Oh, this is going to change the way you coach, the way you watch football. Do you watch it from a tactical point of view?" I try to switch off from that to a certain extent. I try to enjoy watching games of football as a fan a lot of the time. Every now and again, I'll sort of sit down, especially my youngest, we'll sit down and look at, what happened there and sort of shape and stuff like that. But a lot of the time, I try not to, because I think otherwise you just sort of overdo it. You lose lose the love of sort of watching a football game to a certain extent. You're just analysing everything. But yeah, that was fascinating. From both a coach's point of view and as a fan, I thought it was absolutely, some of the stuff he was doing with the players was quite ridiculous in terms of what he was asking them to do in pre-season and stuff like that, and where they're going and getting their sort of body fat measured and stuff like that. It was like, wow. But yeah, definitely an inspirational coach, and sort of some of the football we played was outstanding, to be honest with you.
Have you bought yourself a Bielsa bucket for the touchline?
No. I did try sort of where he leans down and sort of, I tried that and my knees aren't up for that, to be honest with you. I'm a bit of with my coaching, one of my main weaknesses that I've sort of highlighted over and over again, I can't stop with, is I'm a wanderer. Especially in training sessions, I will just wander all over the pitch. And really, I do need to get myself a fixed position more often where I can see see stuff, but I'm just like don't stand still. Where on the sideline on the match day, also I do have to a little bit more. But yeah, that's something that I've highlighted again and again. I still do it. Is I just wander around a bit too much, to be honest with you.
In that documentary, we saw that Bielsa really connected very well with his players, and they absolutely loved him. So, what do you think caused that? What were some of the key reasons behind that connection?
It's fascinating because at the same time, from what also I've read and what I've heard, he wasn't that much of a people person in terms he wouldn't have loads of in-depth conversations. Obviously, there's a language barrier to a certain extent as well. But I suppose they knew that he was helping develop. And you look at players like, Luke Ayling and Stuart Dallas and Calvin Phillips, from where they were to where they are now, obviously they've got a lot to thank him for. So I suppose it's from that development angle that they know that he's had a massive impact on their careers. I suppose is probably one of the main ones.
Let's come back to you. What does it? Sorry, getting my questions all my up. What does a typical Rob Porter session feel like?
Or what to play in. So, yeah, for me, I think it's going to have to be. It's got to be high ball rolling time. I don't like players sort of stood around too long. Hopefully, the tempo is going to be nice and high. I try to, especially these days when my practices, try to make sure that it flows quite well, especially if I'm on my own, where I don't have to spend 5 minutes between practices trying to set up the next one so the players are stood around doing nothing. It's going to be, the intensity is going to be high. I will ask them to work hard when they're in the session. It should be fun. That's still one of the main overarching things for me, that they should enjoy it. Try to, especially with the younger age groups, I try to find that balance between repetition and realism. So they're going to get repetition of what we're going to ask them to do, whether that's passing or receiving or 1v1 defending, but then they're also going to get the game realistic side of it as well. So I think that's one thing I've taken. I think that's from my UEFA B, where if you do, especially younger players, if you do a whole game realistic practice, but they've only they've only repeated the same action 3 times, will they've got any better? But at the same time, if they've done the same thing, 500 times in the session, but they haven't done it in a match realistic setting, and you go up to the weekend and you expect them to do it when there's 22 players on the pitch and the ball's moving and this and that's happening, they're not going to be able to execute it. So I think that's one of the main things for me, where players get to get a repeatable action and they get to sort of do it in maybe a more broken down practice, but they also get the game realistic side of it as well.
All right, let me ask you this one then. So, coming back to your coaching journey, what is something you wish you'd learned earlier as a coach?
That's an interesting one. I think to a certain extent you do sort of learn things when you're meant to learn them. That's a bit of a cop-out.
Yeah, I see what you mean though.
I think the main thing for me I wish I'd done earlier was to coach more. When I went from probably the biggest jump in my coaching, when I went from one hour session a week to then doing the stuff for the community program, when I was doing after school clubs and development centre sessions, and I was doing 5, 6, 7 sessions a week. That improved me as a coach massively. So getting out there and actually doing it was probably the biggest sort of thing where I kind of wish I'd done that a bit sooner. Obviously, earlier on in my career, it would have had to be more volunteering with grassroots stuff, because obviously it wasn't at the level to be sort of moving into development centre football. But yeah, the more you coach, as long as you're then reviewing your sessions and you're learning from the mistakes you make and getting better, the more you coach, the better you're going to get, to a certain extent.
So what's the most valuable experience that you've had that has improved your coaching?
I think last season is quite hard to beat. So moving up from under 12s to under 16s, going and playing against like Chelsea away, Cobham, going to play Aston Villa away in an FA semi-final. Some of the tactical sort of battles, playing against an Arsenal or Chelsea, or playing against someone like MK Dons, who set up completely different. They were very good at sort of condensing the pitch in one area and sort of pressing. But then if you could switch the ball on them, a little bit like Marsh, sort of Jesse Marsh football, where the press is really good, but actually if you can switch the ball quick enough, then you can get success. Yeah, I learned so much last season tactically, getting to work with older players as well, who were sort of just on that cusp of open age football as well. I think was really beneficial for my development.
Now, this is a big one, and this one could go on all day. If you could change anything about the way we do football in England, what would you change?
That is a difficult one, to be honest with you. I think for me, this sounds harsh, but it goes back to really sort of the start of this, where we spoke about good coaching and bad coaching. And I know it's probably not impossible to actually achieve, but if there was more, if coaches were held to better standards, where you didn't see players running laps, you didn't see coaches shouting at players, you didn't see tons of line drills, and coaches were helped a bit more, because at the moment you can do your level 1 and you never see someone from the FA again, and you're just left to your own devices. But if coaches, had more help and sort of were pushing the right direction in terms of their development, I think that would be the massive thing, because I do see some of the best stuff at grassroots, but you also do see some absolute horror shows in terms of players coming off the pitch crying because the coach is shouting at them. You see obviously some really bad practice in terms of training. So I see one session a few years ago where it was at the same club I was with, at a grassroots club, and about halfway through the session, the coach was still doing fitness. "Oh, you're not going to get the balls out." And he said, "No, we lost at the weekend. We didn't run enough, so they're not literally, the ball's staying in the bags tonight. We're doing an hour of fitness," and stuff like that. And you think, well, yeah, it's not great, is it? So yeah, if coaches were better supported and they were helped in sort of what good practice is a bit more, I think would be the main thing for me. Lower, higher the floor. Let's get the floor of what coaching is to a better level.
I like the idea of the balls stay in the bag, so we do fitness because we lost at the weekend. I mean, that's just such backward reasoning. Where we didn't run enough. Okay, no, we didn't run enough because the kids might not have been motivated enough. So the way we're going to motivate them to run more, instead of making them enjoy football more, we're going to punish them and make them hate coming to training.
Yeah, it's quite mental. And as well as that, you think that the coach as well was quite a large gentleman who probably wouldn't have done 5 minutes of the running himself. And when he's sort of shouting the kids that, you've got to be fitter and all the rest of it, I'm thinking, they're not turning around and thinking, well, pot in the kettle.
Yeah. You see a lot of that in the United States, and the irony appears to be lost in them, which is unfortunate. But I suppose there's certain levels of ignorance involved throughout that entire process. So
yeah, don't get me wrong. Obviously, if you're an older person or you've had knee problems, something like that, you might not be able to. But some of it does seem to be lost on people, unfortunately.
Speaking of fitness, I'm looking forward to. I had this problem with my ankle for almost a year now. I'm as soon as I'm able to, I'm going to join in the warm-ups in practice, just so I can run around again.
It's quite funny. We've obviously the players who we coached this year, we coached at under 12s, and the other coach had a race with one of the girls, and he just about beat her because she's absolutely rapid, and she wants a rematch with him, and he's trying to avoid doing it because he knows he's going to lose. But me personally, they'd all beat me, to be honest with you. But yeah, I used to do a lot of long distance running, but I'm not particularly fast, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's one of those things where I like to sort of be able to do what the players can do. Obviously, when I get older, I won't be able to, but I think it's one of the things you said that would be a really good thing to do, is be able to take part in the warm up, because you're showing that you're, and it's something that goes back to creating an environment where it's an us environment rather than us and them. The last thing I want is the players to be, well, it's us against the coaches. we're all in this together. You know, I'm trying to help their development, and hopefully they see that, and we're all in the same boat together.
I know there's a lot of coaches that don't like coach involvement in practice at all, and I get the reasoning. I used to work for Brazilian soccer schools, and they'd say the franchise I worked for at least encouraged us to join in, because if we could do the skills, the kids would then want to do it. And if we were joining in 3v3 type games and nutmegging kids and doing moves on them, the kids would then want to, they would get really annoyed, and then they'd want to do it back to us. And I don't see a problem with, from a social point of view, let's say you're doing a warm-up or you're doing something basic like that, and someone's got to step out for a minute, and there's a group that's a player down. If you join in just for 60 seconds, maybe nutmeg one of the players, maybe play a nice little reverse pass, or you donkey it out of play, and then you have to go in and suddenly the players are trying to beat coach. I think that kind of thing does wonders for bonding and breaking down the barriers of, it's almost like a vertical leadership structure. I'm coach, therefore I'm in charge and I'm above you. Whereas it's more, you might be on the same page as us and you might be thinking completely different. But from discussions we've had a lot in the past, I think you've got more of a similar opinion to me, in that I've always viewed coaches as like pit crew. We're there to enhance, but we're not above. We are part of the team, and our role is to prepare, to educate, and to analyze. And I feel that in the environments where I've been successful, I've had great relationships with the players because there aren't any walls. They can talk to me about all sorts. They can come to me with their problems, because if a player is scared of a coach, they won't tell you about a problem until it's too late. Whereas if they can relate to you, if they can talk to you, they'll tell you a problem, and it's in its tiniest, most early stages where it can easily be solved. And I think sometimes just occasionally joining in, just 60 seconds here or there, it can really help you bond with the players, particularly when I've been in academies and the kids are better than me as an adult. just it gets them to laugh, because then you see, look guys, you're going to make mistakes. I made several mistakes right in front of you, and it's okay. This is how you learn. This is how you get better. So what are your thoughts on my wafflings right there?
Yeah, I think there's a massive difference from that to, I've seen it quite a few at grassroots where the coach is just running through the whole team and banging it in the top bins and all the rest of it. I mean, that you kind of like, but
I do enjoy a bit of that on summer camps, like maybe on the last day of summer camp, get involved in the game, beat all the kids, hit one top corner, and then do a knee slide. Just especially if you do it against the kids who've been annoying you all week.
Yeah. But no, I think with stuff like rondos at the start and stuff like that, I think from obviously the main one is, especially, you don't want a coach 2 foot in a player and breaking their ankle or something like that. But joining in, jumping in a rondo for a couple of minutes and then sort of embarrassing you, yeah, it's quite funny. And I suppose all that and that sort of, it links into that ownership sort of bit as well. What you were saying about being not sort of at a high level. Like last night, we were doing murder ball as like a pre-season sort of fitness, but also playing football as well. So I think it's one of the best bits of hidden fitness you can do. So we had 9 players. So I said, look, girls, what do you want to do? Do you want to have a 4v4 plus 1 and have a neutral? Do you want to have a 5v4? We'll just switch around which team's got the overload every game. And we want to have a 5v4. So it's like, brilliant. We go with that. And yeah, stuff like that. It's just makes them, makes them feel that it's their session as well. Although you're the one who puts the practices together, who knows what the coaching points are, the fact that they know that their opinion matters and they've got a sort of buy into the session, I think is huge as well.
I think you made some good points. So you talked about murder ball. For those who are unaware, what is murder ball?
So basically last night we had a 5v5 pitch, which we were 1 player down, so it was 9. We had a girl, bless her, who's waiting for an operation. So she was basically my assistant coach last night. So she was feeding balls in. Literally, as soon as the ball goes off the pitch, there's no throw-ins, there's no corners, no goal kicks, another ball just goes in. So if one team it goes out for a goal kick, just play them a ball straight in. So it's literally 4 minutes with pretty much as close as you can get to 100% ball rolling time, and then a minute and a half break between games. So lots of fitness, but it's playing a game as well. So it's them playing football. So it's not we're running laps or we're doing bleep test or something like that. But they're getting fitness while they're actually playing the game, which I think is pretty much ideal, to be honest with you.
Similar to something that we do in futsal, the best one that we do at the club is for fitness is 3v3 winner stays on. If you do a full court, that's a lot of running.
Yeah.
The incentive of, well, I want to play, I want to score goals, so I'm going to work hard. And then because the walls surrounding the pitch, the court, the ball goes off, it's straight back in again. So I did want to end there, that final question, but you just mentioned that you had an injured player as an assistant coach. Tell me about that, how you manage it and what the benefits are for that.
Yeah, so I won't be able to go into details in terms of obviously injury and obviously stuff like that. But yeah, the girl's waiting for an operation. So, she's coming along to train, which is fantastic because she was still wanted to be part of the team. And rather than her just sort of standing there and doing absolutely nothing, so right, can you feed the balls in, and obviously can you help with the practice after that? So what do you reckon size wise? I reckon we need to make it a bit bigger. She said, yeah, I agree with that. So I said, well, how much bigger do you want to make it? And we made it sort of bigger between the two of us. And not every player is going to become a coach, but stuff like that, seeing stuff from the other side, I think it's quite beneficial as well, to be honest with you. So just trying to keep them involved, and it's nice that if players are injured, they can still turn up and be part of the team. I think it's really good, to be honest with you, beneficial for them. Do
you think she still feels connected to the team?
Yeah, I think so. There was sort of in drinks breaks, she's having a laugh with the rest of the team as well. So there's still that social interaction between players. It's difficult because obviously she's not getting to play, which is the crappy part. But I think obviously if it's either that or you just don't see her and she doesn't see anyone, I think it's the best of a bad situation.
And have you noticed any difference in her ability to either communicate points to her teammates or her analysis of the game?
To be honest with you, it's only been sort of 2 or 3 weeks since pre-season, so not really enough yet to judge, to be honest with you. But yeah, obviously it's just trying to make it, trying to make her sort of still be, well, not make her, I don't think it's the right word, but trying to get her to still feel part of it and have some sort of impacts on the session as well, I think is a good thing. So yeah, she was there to serve balls in, but she was also sort of helping, and I was trying to make sure that she's sort of engaged in the session as well.
Wonderful. Absolutely love that. Rob, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for coming on, sharing your stories and your journey with us.
Yeah, hopefully I haven't waffled on too much and there were some points that made some sense of a bit of that.
Yeah, there was definitely a few that I think other people would take a lot of value from. Thanks to Rob for coming on, and thank you to all of you for tuning in. We've got a new feature coming up soon called BFCN Shorts, where coaches who have worked around the world give us a brief overview of what it's like to live and work in different locations. Some great jobs on the board recently: youth coach in Mexico, national futsal team coach, fitness coach and performance analyst in India, a head coaching role in Singapore, and more youth coaching roles in Romania, Qatar, Morocco and the UAE. We'll see you next time.